Hey everybody, welcome to the round 10 player ratings video after a fabulous Friday night win by the Carlton Football Club against the Sydney Swans. Gee, the weekends are different after you win on a Friday night. I haven't experienced this. I don't think, well, none of us have experienced this often. Obviously, we play on a Thursday night every year in round one to kick off the season, and we generally lose that game, but not this year. So that was a different experience. And, you know, got the Friday night game against the Swans. We've just announced a couple of more Friday night primetime slots later in the season. So I can get used to this. The Sunday graveyard shift, it's a challenge because you got to watch the game, you got the fan cams, you got to get the review, the player ratings. It all sort of has to just be jumbled into one day. You don't get time to let the content breathe. So grateful for that. If you're new to the channel and you're new to the play ratings, welcome. Now, these play ratings videos are sponsored by Doing a Bit. You can see I've got the fresh merch. I've got Mark Sanders, who's an absolute class gentleman who's been a supporter of the channel for years now. And he's got an activewear company called Doing a Bit. Great clothing, great merchandise, but more importantly, it's a great message behind the company. And that is just that, doing a bit, whether it's your personal life, your health, your business, whatever it is, whatever you're working on, you're doing a little bit day by day. So really grateful to have Mark on board with the Blue Abroad YouTube channel now and for many years to come. And while I've got you, we've got a very special announcement. Well, actually a couple of announcements. Number one, we've got the hookup. Don't worry about it. Got the discount code. So if you go to doingabit.com, the website is in the description. You can use the following code at the checkout, doingabit_BA. All details will be in the description. You get 20% off the shop, which is incredible value. And more importantly, you support a good man, a blue bagger, and a guy that's just working his absolute tail off to do his thing. So appreciate you, Mark, and I appreciate Doing a Bit. Also, if you see him at games, go and say hello. He's an absolute legend. And the other thing is he's given me a few beanies and some hats and a few other items to give away. So in this video, in the comments, I want you to write something that's relevant to you that you're doing in your life, something you're working on a personal front, like a goal of yours. Leave it in the comments below. I'll pick one and I'll send you a beanie. Now let's get into it. Player ratings. Now again, they're not right, they're not wrong, just discussion. Obviously, I lack the full context because I'm not on the inside. It's really just based on the perception of watching the game. I was at the game. I've now watched the replay. So let's see how we go. We'll start as the team was named. Jacob Wiedering, Lewis Young and Stocker. Thought Wiedering was immense. Just immense. The buddy matchup is one that's given us nightmares for the better part of a decade, really, ever since he stepped foot in the league. And Wiedering, I thought he did a phenomenal job. There's always a certain moment in a game which summarises a player's performance in my eyes, and I think the mark late in the fourth quarter where it just almost just fell in his hands, but the body positioning of him to take that mark when Sydney were coming, because they were coming really hard, I thought it was significant. So I gave Wiedering a 10, and isn't he just one of our great leaders now? It's so good to be talking about it like that. Lewis Young, I gave him a 9. It's such a relief to have him back in the side. I've really warmed to him. He's really come a long way since I first saw him at training. He, looks to really have settled in. He's had his moment, I think, where he endeared himself to the club. I think the North Melbourne game was that. And obviously when he got tunnelled as well, we felt that emotion because, one of our brothers were hurt. So I gave him a 9. I thought he defended well. He's got this really unique ability because he's so long. He can give up a little bit more space when he's away from the ball because he's going to cover the ground so well because he's long and he's athletic and he's going to get a hand in there. It's a really unique trait that he has that not many defenders in the league do have, and I just think he's going to go from strength to strength. He looks to have his confidence. He looks to be switched on, and ultimately that's all you want. You want your players to be fully focused on the task at hand and not let the outside distractions get to them, and he looks to be doing that. Gave him a 9. Loved his game. Stocks, man. I'm so biased towards him. He's my favourite player. No, that's not fair. There's so many of them. He's one of my favourites. Just the way he goes about it. He's tough. He's strong. He's there for his teammates. A little fight breaks out after Sam Doherty gets hit, and he's just in there getting in Chad Warner, just fucking, and he knows that we love it, and we know he knows he loves it. Oh, mate, it's so good. He's great. I think he just needs continuity, and the one thing I hope for him is just let's just get 12 straight games into him. I know it's easier said than done, and the reality of the sport is it's brutal, and injuries and knocks and all these things can happen, but we're such a tougher side when he's in there. I just have such faith in whatever contest he's around. We're not going to get pushed around. So I gave him a 6 for his game. I think early in the game, his kicking was a little off, and that's probably just due to the fact that he just hasn't had the continuity. But as the game went on, I think there was a beautiful kick on his right foot, maybe in the second quarter, to Jack Carroll. And after that, he looked to be back up to the speed of the game. I love that he tries to use his left foot. I love it. I think it's a great thing. I hope he keeps doing it. And, I gave him a 6 for his game, above a pass mark. I know he'll be better for it. I just love having him around. So all the best for Stocks. Then we've got the half-back line. So Nick Newman, Adam Sard, Sam Doherty. Nui, I think he's a really important piece now that, Zach Williams is going to be out for an extended amount of time. And I thought he was great. He sort of had a bit of an up and down last couple of weeks in the sense of one really impactful game, one not so impactful game, and then sort of back and forth. But I think now that Zach Williams is out of the side and a little bit more responsibility comes on to Nui, I think he thrives under it. So I gave him a 9. I thought he impacted the game really well, defended really well, drove the ball forward, won enough of the ball, plenty of contested possessions in there, and gave him a 9 for his game. Sardi, he's crazy good. He's crazy good. The way he gets out of any situation, he's so creative, and there was a little dinky kick in the first quarter where he ran around, looked like he was in trouble, and then just sort of dinked it over to, I think it might have been Sam Walsh early in the game. Just phenomenal. Rarely turns the ball over and really, muffs it. Just gets us going. I gave him a 9 for his game. That might be a little harsh. Maybe I should throw out a 10. I'm trying not to get too carried away and just throw the 10s out just to keep them super valuable. But you can make the case for a 10 for Sard. I gave him a 9, so we'll see what you say in the comments. Doherty, gave him a 9. He's just special. He's just a special being amongst this whole thing that we have going right now. And he is a big energy source for us. And you can just see the care that we all have for him as fans, as the players. Obviously that big knock with Josh Kennedy. I don't think it was malicious. I just think Josh Kennedy is starting to go through what a lot of players who come towards the end of their career are going through, in that the game and the timing and the speed just goes way past them. And I just think it was mistimed by Josh Kennedy. And, he's obviously got a great reputation. I've got a lot of respect for Josh Kennedy, and I just don't believe that he did that, with malicious intent. So it was good to see how the boys got around Doc. I hope he's okay, because it was a serious knock. But, mate, this guy has beaten death. You think a little knock in the face is going to get him down? Mate, he'll be back next week, up and about. No worries about that. So gave him a 9. Super impactful. Led from the front. Did his thing. He's tough. He's tenacious. And he's our man. So Sam Doherty for a 9. Then we go to the midfield. So Lockie O'Brien, Cripps, and Fisher. Lockie O'Brien, I gave him a 7. He's getting better. He's just incrementally getting better. I loved his chase down tackle early in the game. I think it might have been in the first or second quarter. Just good to see, physical moments like that from him. He's going to have to get a bit stronger, and he will. And once he gets that, because he's got the kicking down pat, he's now starting to get his running patterns down pat. He's starting to win a little bit more of the ball. Would love to see him creep up, and hover around that 18 to 19, 20 possession mark. But, I have faith that he's on the right path after, years of where is he at? Is he going to be okay? Is he going to make it? Is he going to get stronger? Is he going to get bigger? Gave him a 7 for his game. I enjoyed it. And I think he's coming along nicely. And it's a really pleasant situation with Lockie O'Brien for me. Cripps wasn't as influential as what we've seen this season, in the sense that he just didn't have a 3-vote game. But you got to remember what he's been doing over the last few weeks. It's changed up. He's really, first of all, he had Mills on him. Second of all, he's playing a bit more in the ruck. It's a totally different way, and it's a totally different experience, I would imagine, for him, having to take that on instead of having the ball tapped to you. He's got to be in there as well at times. It gives relief to Tom De Koning. It's very selfless. And so, it's not 30 possessions and 3 goals, but he still was influential, and he still had impact. Kicked the first of our goals, I believe. And I gave him an 8 for his game. So love what he's doing. I just got nothing but praise for the skipper. After a couple of years where we just weren't sure what was going on, but ultimately, nothing is linear. You don't just continue to get better and better. Life throws you curveballs and you've got to be able to withstand them and go through them. So well done to the skipper, gave him an 8. Zac Fisher, named on the wing. Zac Fisher running down the wing. He's just turned the corner. He's just kind of like really announced himself on a really large scale to the competition. Like if you look close enough, he's one of our more dynamic players. His ability at the moment, I think he's gone from, he used to change direction a lot mid-game and then take a short option. It seems like he's now seeing the ground ahead of him a bit further than what he used to, because he's now sort of shifting direction and it's impacting everyone further down the ground, and he's really looking beyond 20 or 25 or 30 meters for an option. He's looking a lot further down the ground, and his kicking is more impactful. His possessions are more impactful. And then, most importantly, he's hitting the scoreboard and he's kicking really important goals. He's had a couple of them this year. I think Richmond, he kicked a really important goal late. I'm missing another one that was just recently. It's in my memory, but I can't pick it out right now. And then obviously, the real sealer against the Swans. It was, he's getting himself in dangerous positions. Continuity is an amazing thing for a player, and I think he's definitely benefiting from that. He's stronger. He's a little bit bigger, and I think he's going to continue to get stronger and a little bit bigger. But I've got nothing but love for Fish. Love the way he goes about it. I'm so biased towards him because there's a reason for it, There's a reason for that, and it's because of the way he is as a Carlton person to the Carlton people. And I hope that never changes, and I don't think it ever will. He's a good one. So I gave him a 10. Then we go to Jack Carroll, Sam Walsh, and Corey Durden. Jack Carroll, I gave him a 6 for his game. He's got a really interesting ability to work his way into a game. I find him to be a real footballer. I know that's really strange to say because they're all footballers, but he's a real footy IQ kind of player. He's not super athletic or he's not super strong. He doesn't have like a superpower. I guess his superpower is his footy IQ. Just gets into the right spots. You got to remember how young he is and how early in his career he is. So I gave him a 6 for his game. I hope we persist with him. Ultimately, you've got to find the balance. And this is what I find most interesting, being on this side and not on the inside. The conversations as a coaching group with him, like, what's the balance between, hey, Jack, we need you to do X, Y, and Z, and, teach, and then sort of giving him an opportunity and giving him confidence to make sure he flourishes under that. I think we persist with him in the side. I don't think he's a detriment to the side by any means. Obviously, would hope that eventually he starts winning a bit more of the ball. I know he's got it in him, but it's also so early in his career. So I kind of just want to put the brakes on and just let him go. But nonetheless, I love what he brings to the team, and you can just see it. He's got it, and let's just imagine 3, 4, 5, 6 preseasons under his belt, mate. He's going to be starting in that midfield and leading this cruise ship forward. So I like where he's at. I like where he's going. Sam Walsh, it was really hard to not give him player of the game. I thought, especially early, just everywhere. Cripps sort of seemed to take the Mills treatment and the ruck situation, and it allows someone like a Sam Walsh or someone else to bob up. But Walsh is special. We're talking about an All-Australian caliber player here, so no surprises there, but he was fantastic. So I gave him a 10. Corey fucking Durden, mate. It's really interesting because obviously he wins the Rising Star Award nomination last year, I should say. And, he's got press conferences and 4 to 5 to 6 media commitments. He's on, AFL 360 and all of that. And I was very curious to see, because obviously it's a different preparation for a game because you've got to do all these media commitments, which is not something he's done quite yet in his career. It's something that he probably will be doing as he continues to grow. First of all, the way he speaks is phenomenal. And I knew that because I've met him, but it's great that everyone else gets to see him. And also, Fox Footy, get your shit together. That Lockie Fogarty graphic behind, I'm not over that. So we'll talk about that at a later time, but that's just absolutely disrespectful. And, the league will notice. The league will take notice of who this kid is. He's a real one. I'm telling you, the way he pushes himself, he's great, and he's getting the rewards, hits the scoreboard, and the way he kicked that first goal, Jesus, that's very dynamic. A few years ago, we were a little bit worried about missing out on Tom Papley, and Papley's a star, but don't worry about Papley, mate. We've got Corey Durden. I really do believe he's got like a Boomer Harvey type energy, because he's got this ability to play around the ball. And he was a midfielder in juniors growing up. And I think as the career progresses, we're going to want the ball in his hands a bit more because he uses it well. He runs hard. His sprint efforts are just amazing. And yeah, I can compare him to Boomer Harvey, but I think he's going to be the first Corey Durden. Fuck Boomer. So yeah, Corey Durden, 10 for me. Matt Owies, Kerno, and Jack Silvani. Owies didn't get the full reward for his effort in the sense that he kicked a couple of behinds, but all class, fully professional in the way he goes about it. He looked really sharp. Obviously, he could have kicked a couple more goals, but he hit the scoreboard, he tackles, he presents, and he forces stoppages, which is not a stat. I don't know if it's a stat, but I don't think it is, but it's definitely not a stat that most people look at. But his ability to force a stoppage and just lock the ball in our forward half, because we know that that's what we want to do, is, it's exemplary. So I gave him an 8 for his game, and I love the way he's going about it. Kerno, 10, easy. It's the easiest 10 you'll give. His first half was great. A lot of the talk before the game was, Harry's not there and they're going to double team Charlie. Mate, let him triple team Charlie. It's not a worry, especially under the roof, because it's a dry ball and he's just getting better. His body, if you look at him, his body looks to have really developed quite a lot, even from round 1 this year. He's getting a lot more confident. He seems to know there's a maturity with Charlie, clearly. But he seems to now know, because I remember early in his career, before the injuries, he was just flying at everything. Now he's got this, he's got this wisdom. He now knows his body, first of all. And then secondly, with McCartan, he had him in all sorts, because he was obviously flying for the ball early. And then I think it was his 5th goal where he waited and got the ball back and almost acted like a small forward. Now, McCartan's thinking, I've got to stay on Charlie. He's going to jump up for this ball. But it's just footy IQ. It's forward IQ, and Charlie's got it. He's a star. He's a star of this competition, and I loved his little interview after the game where he mentioned, how just grateful he is every time he gets to play. He's really been made to learn the art of being grateful for what you do have, because it can be ripped away at any point in a very cruel way, and that's the world and that's life. And so, he plays with gratitude, and, he had a real focus about him. So I gave him a 10. Jack Silvani probably didn't have as much impact as what we've seen for the majority of the season, but he always just finds a way to bring that minimum standard, and that is the key. It's not going to be your day every day, but you got to find a way so your lesser games can be a little bit better than what they used to be. And he's got that ability. He's becoming a real veteran of the team, if he isn't already. Gave him a 7. He rucks. He provides an option. He had to be the second forward option this week. Love Jack. Nothing else to say. So I gave him a 7. Then we've got De Koning, Chera, and Hewitt. De Koning, I feel like amongst all the talk about how good Charlie was and how good Wiedering was and how good Zac Fisher and Corey Durden, I think what has slipped under the radar is Tom De Koning just had the best game of his career. I really do believe it. It wasn't until I watched the replay that I realised, oh my God, that was the best game of Tom's career. And the reason is, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, going into the game, you got 2 bona fide ruckmen in Laddams and Hickey coming up against a younger Tom De Koning who's less than 50 games into his career. So I kind of went into there thinking, look, it's 2 against 1. Obviously, we'll have a bit of a chop out with Silvani and Cripps around the ground and all of that. But ultimately, I went into the game thinking we'll probably lose the hit-out battle and all of that. Nah, he won the hit-out battle. He won the hit-outs to advantage battle. He won the entire battle, the whole lot. He beat both of them significantly. And I think it was the game. And the moment, well, the fourth quarter was really the stretch of moment in that he took, I think, 4 contested marks. But I think it was the third one. It was on the lead. I was sitting on the wing behind the bench. It was to my left, and it was on the wing. And just the way he went up for the ball, he jumped at the footy with force, which he hasn't done a lot of in his career. And as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, shit. He's coming. And he's coming really quickly. And you really get a test of a man, or just any human being, a woman, anyone. You really get a test of someone when you throw them in the deep end and you see how they react to it. And I think a lot of kudos needs to go to Tom De Koning for the way he's been playing since Pito went down and since we had this situation of, hey, Tom, it's time. He's thicker. The body, he must be putting so much work in because his body composition has come leaps and bounds over the last, 18 to 24 months. So nothing but praise for Tom. I think he's found his level, and now we can reference a game where it's like, Tom, that is you, and that's your standard. And I think we're going to continue to build from here. And again, there are going to be tough ones and disappointments and ups and downs coming, but I think that was a very special game, and I think it needs to be highlighted a little bit more than what it maybe has been. So I gave him a 10. Now, Chera, I gave him a pass mark. It just wasn't as influential as what we've seen. It just happens. It happens from time to time. We've got to remember he's still at that first third of his career. I know he's a big recruit, a big-ish name, but I've got no worries about Ches. I know he's going to be better for it. I look forward to seeing him next week against the Pies at the MCG. He had the 13 touches. It's not all about possessions, but for a guy like Chera, I look to him to be one of our main, ball winners and all of that. So gave him a pass mark, probably because we won. That's generally how it works. Hewitt, gave him a 10, unassuming, does his work, tough. He's just as strong as anyone else in the team. Cripps is obviously the real big beast, but I think Hewitt is just as strong. 32 possessions and 7 tackles, which was the equal most for the team with Cripps. He's tough, 17 contested possessions, 9 clearances. Just, he gets us going in that midfield, and, we're super grateful and super lucky to have him. So I gave him a 10 for his game. Then we moved to the bench. We've got Motlop, Kennedy, Plowman, and Cottrell. Jesse Motlop, wow, he's here, and he's going to get better. It was really interesting to see his first game against the Giants last week in not perfect conditions, a little bit wet, a little bit, dewy-ish, or just wet. It was wet during the weekend last weekend. So, but he looked to get better as the game went on. And then going into this game, copped a really big hit early in the first. He sort of knocked himself down a bit, and I thought, was it a head knock? Was it a concussion potentially? But got back up, and then he just seemed to learn. He seems to really learn fast in game. It's a really unique trait for a player to have. A lot of young players can have some moments early that can sort of scare them off a bit, but you can tell he's got this pedigree to just keep going and keep at it. He had 4 shots on goal, kicked a nice one, and you got to keep him in the side. For me, I was really happy, and I am really happy to see that we let him play in the twos for a bit. He could have probably played earlier, but he didn't, and I like it because I like the fact that they've got to come through the twos and develop a little bit. I love the development system. Giving games straight away. I feel like you want to make sure with young players that they really earn their first couple of games. So they're just, you build the foundations with that. And I think this is a good example. And, he's so young, but you can just tell he's got it. Whatever it is, he's got it. So I gave him an 8 for his game, and I just, want to see him continue to build and go from there and stay locked in. Kennedy, I gave Kennedy a 9. Just a really good job. I loved seeing him and, Luke Parker going at it, just 2 bulls. And, Luke Parker's one of Sydney's best midfielders, if not their best, probably with Mills. Kennedy, he's one of our better midfielders, but you probably put him just below some of the other players. And that's no disrespect to Kennedy. It's just the gravity of Cripps and Walsh. But for Kennedy to just match it with Luke Parker, I thought was really good. And he's just tough, and he seems to really thrive off the tougher the game gets and the harder the contest gets, the more he seems to thrive under it. And that's a really good trait come finals time and hopefully grand final time. So I gave him a 9. Lockie Plowman, my housemate called him Blanket, and I don't mind it. Maybe we can get that trending. He is the Blanket. He's a new man. His last 2 games have been something else. And to be honest, his last 2 games have been the Lockie Plowman that I saw when we first got him, where he was playing with this attacking flair, but also staying very mindful to be a defender. I'm not 100% sure what his direct instruction is, and that's a conversation I'd love to have with one of the coaches. Hopefully we can do it on the channel, but you got to give it up for Lockie Plowman and what he did on Friday night. The moment in the 4th where he got pinned, I know maybe some people might get a little bit angry at it. I didn't. I want to see him do that more. Because for me, it was a mentality of, I'm going to make a play here. Get the ball, run on, and make a play. And it just didn't work out in that moment. And I think in years gone by, a lot of people would probably jump on him and say, what the fuck's he doing? And we can't play with him. And our premiership team won't have Lockie Plowman in it and all of that. But I really hope that he continues to try to do things, like that and take the game on. And, it's almost what you want to see from Zach Williams when he's in the side. So to see Lockie Plowman take that responsibility to generate some ball moving forward for us, I love to see it. I know it didn't come off, but I love the mentality. And then there's the big contested mark late in the fourth, and that was what I thought Lockie Plowman's moment of the game was. So I gave him a 9, and I love what he's been doing, and I'm just happy for him. Cottrell, I also gave him a 9. We're talking about a guy who would come into the side, panic, bang the ball on the boot, not use the ball very well at times, but he had the ambition, and he always had the love, and he just brought that energy that you want from a player, but just didn't have the polish. The game seems to be slowing down, in my opinion, for Matt Cottrell. Seems to really have an assuredness of what he wants to do when he gets the ball. And, it's obviously down to coaching and the instructions and the communication, but it's also down to him and the work that he's put into his craft. He's a job doer, and I thought he was really good. I did. I think he just brings something else to the team. And we're talking about a guy that probably isn't in our first selected 22 or 23 if we had the full complement of the list and everyone was healthy. But nonetheless, I don't think you can criticize what he's been doing this year. He's shown improvement, and I'm just pleased for him. I'm pleased that we've, got one there, and one that we can persist with and move forward with. And then, again, the imagination starts running wild about, geez, imagine 2, 3, 4 more pre-seasons under this coaching system and philosophy. There's a serious player starting to emerge with Matthew Cottrell, and I'm just pleased for him. So anyway, gave him a 9. Those are my ratings. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you feel like any of these should be changed or altered, and give a reason why. And even if you've got time, ideally you should hopefully be putting all of your player ratings in the comments below, so we can just compare and just generate that chat about it and see how we feel everyone's going. And, obviously it's all about performance. There's nothing personal here. And yeah, let me know. We'll talk about it there. And I'll see you next week. Go the Mighty Blues.